Happy Monday and good morning to you, William Gill. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Coffee and eXp Realty. Today's Monday morning. If you are watching this on Facebook, please feel free to hit share. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to hit subscribe. We're going to go ahead and jump in.
Let's do it.
All right. You and I actually have a pretty interesting history, something totally different than anyone else here at the eXp organization, in that we worked together before.
We did.
But one step removed. This was when we were running the Mega team. And so you worked with the Serpa team. So
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. What is your professional background?
So I was in the Navy. So I'm a Navy veteran. I started off my adult career kind of partying a lot, trying to go to college.
Yeah.
Dropping out a time or two. And then about the age of 22, I made this drastic, life-changing experience to join the Navy. Changed my life. Got shipped out to San Diego for boot camp. Spent a brief period of time in Long Beach. And I'm originally from the Panhandle of Florida, so
Okay.
I got to Long Beach and thought I had reached the big time. I loved Long Beach. I was so sad when I found out we were coming to San Diego. Of course, once I got to San Diego, I realized that San Diego was the place to be. So I spent 4 years in the Navy, got out, went to college, and have a degree in history and political science.
How cool. Those are two big areas for me. I love my history, love my political science. If we don't understand the history, we're destined to repeat it.
Absolutely.
So you jump in, you're a veteran. Amy said, good morning, gentlemen. There's no sound. Amy, that's on your end. I just checked the sound. We are good on our end. So two veterans talking this morning over coffee. If you're just joining us, spent 4 years in the Navy. And then what did you decide to do from there, William?
So I went to college. Well, first of all, I decided to get out of the Navy. And I think you and I had a conversation the other day, and I told you the best decision I ever made in my life was to go in the Navy, and the second best was to get out.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot. I got to travel the world, but it wasn't for me long term.
Yeah.
I knew I had bigger aspirations and wanted to do some things. I always wanted to be a teacher and or do education. I actually got a chance to do that in the Navy. I ran our training program for the mess management department, which are basically the cooks. So I ran that whole program. So I got out. I went to first I went to Mesa Community College, and then I transferred to UCSD. Got a degree in history and political science. Always been, I'm not a math person. I'm not a science person, but history and politics.
Yes.
Got into politics really young. Grew up in the 70s and my consciousness really started in the election of 1980. And I was a 10-year-old sitting on my parents' bed in front of a little black and white TV, coloring in the states during that election.
Yeah.
And always had a love of politics and history. So got my degree. And then I planned to go into teaching. I went actually to the University of Phoenix and got my multi-subject teaching credential, basically to teach elementary school. And then this crazy thing happened. I was working part-time at a Wells Fargo museum in Old Town San Diego. Never had an interest in history of the West. My focus really was pre-Civil War and then the 1940s, 50s time period. But got a part-time job, learned a lot about the West and westward expansion. And about the time I was finishing up my student teaching and was about to embark on a teaching career, I had this opportunity to become the assistant manager of the museum. And
this is such a cool story. You and I talked about this when we did our Beverly Hills trip. And you told me a little bit about what your job was for Wells Fargo. Totally different than anything that I've ever heard of anyone do. Totally unique to what your history was. With loving history and everything like that. So what did you end up doing with Wells Fargo?
Well, it was a perfect fit. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better beginning to my career. One of the things I loved about the job was that we could just do history and education. One of the things that we did probably for the first 10 years I was there was we were part of a program that San Diego's city schools had, where all fourth graders came to Old Town for a week and would spend each day they would study a different time period of California history. So we were part of that. So I saw for 10 years upwards of 8 to 9,000 fourth graders a year. And so I
Okay.
got to do history, I got to do education, doing presentations. And I always described it, I could have become a teacher and, done that route. But I always describe what I did, besides making people feel warm and fuzzy about Wells Fargo. It was kind of like a grandparent.
Sure.
Kids would come in. I got to spend, an hour with them, rile them up, have a good time, and then send them back to the teachers.
Sure.
So it was a great experience.
We love being keepers of information and passers on of this information. And you and I both have a heart in training. And so
Yeah.
that's something that has been very close to us. So how is it that you and I ended up meeting, my friend?
So we started looking for a house in San Diego. I had purchased a home back in 2010. Got a great deal during the crash, just as everything was starting to go up. But the home wasn't ideal. It was a little tiny place east of downtown San Diego, built in the 1920s, and so my husband and I started trying to look to upgrade. And as we began searching, the prices, we just kept having to go further and further and further away from San Diego.
Yes.
And before you know it, we were in Temecula, and I had never ever thought about living in Temecula. Growing up or living in San Diego for so long, it seemed like the country. Might as well go to the moon. But we came out, we checked it out, and it's a beautiful place. And the value you can get in Temecula is amazing. So we came up.
But it's really funny because everybody that lives in Temecula has this mindset that like we live in the Hamptons. But for
Right.
everybody that's down in San Diego, everybody's looking at Temecula like, oh, we're a bunch of country bumpkins.
Right.
And so it is the values there. The schools are fantastic. The city is safe. It's a great place to live. But so you ended up making the jump. You worked with my team, listed down in San Diego, bought here in Temecula. What was it that made you think about getting into real estate?
Well, I always, as the years went on with Wells Fargo, I began to reevaluate my life. And actually, my husband was a big factor in that. He comes from an entrepreneurial background. His family are all business owners. And I began to think about doing something different. And I just wanted to have something in my back pocket, just in case, because you never know.
And you know what's so interesting about that is, the entrepreneurial minded people, none of us really get into real estate. Like, we're going to do real estate full time. This is it for me. This is a career change. I did it the same. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to use it to subsidize my GI Bill while I go to school. And it just ended up being so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to do something different. I was approaching 49,
Yep.
and realized I had about 17 years left to work, at least minimum.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, if this, now's the time to do it. If I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. And I had met a lot of great real estate agents, including, Zach and Josh, who were on your team at that time. And I saw how, great they were, and realized, I think I can do this. And then I had a couple conversations with, a lot of agents, but Zach came over and we chatted. And I think I told you the other day, it was kind of like Buddhism, where as far as eXp goes, where you have three contacts before you make the jump.
Yep.
And so I had, been looking online as I was finishing up my license, and saw the eXp and loved the forward, technology and the whole, universe, cloud-based universe of it.
It's been a very Zen experience for me because I look at real estate and I look at business like it's a spiritual practice. One of the reasons why people struggle so much, with business and with home and with their self is that they're constantly turning on and off. Whereas if you are in a spiritual practice in your business with yourself and with your family, there's no transition. You're simply being of service as you go throughout your day. And so I love that element of eXp. It gives me an opportunity to be a servant leader. And so I get to, spend the day doing things that I do, which was work is play, enjoying doing what I do. And so it's been a blast working with you. I loved having you on the open house show yesterday. We had several good laughs, and you're a good person to have around, William. So you interviewed with several different brokerages. What was it that ultimately ended up making you decide that eXp is the one for you?
Well, I liked the fact that, you first of all the training that they have, and you don't have to go somewhere to do the training. I can do the training on my couch in my PJs. I can do it at the office. I can do it on the go. I can do it in an open house.
I've got my slippers on right now.
Exactly. I don't have shoes on right now.
There we go.
Yeah, so I could be in an open house, and if it's going slow, I can pop on. I can do training. I can chat with dozens and dozens of people from all over the country at any time.
It doesn't feel so lonely. It's really like, and that's, as somebody that believes in the connectivity of all things, and we've talked about Zen a little bit, but I believe that we get deeper into ourselves by diving deeper into other people, and having these experiences where we get to experience other people and do things together. It's not just this lonely life that we were meant to experience. And when we jump into real estate, a lot of us think that we want that. We want people to leave us alone. We're just going to practice real estate by ourselves. But then we get here and we realize it's important to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, not only good people, but motivating people.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I didn't have that mindset, and so being around people who are motivating and who teach you, and who are real mentors all around, from you to Zach to Karen, all these different people that I've met since I've joined eXp. It's you create a even though you're running sort of your own business, you're still part of a community, and that's important to me. I mean, whether it's real estate or anything that you're in sales or running your business, it's an emotional thing. And we want to be connected. As humans, we want to be connected emotionally in business and whatever it is that we're doing, and that's what I love about this group that we have and eXp.
It's so cool because we get an opportunity to expose each other to other people. Like every person that I meet, I'm like, who can I introduce you to that will make your life a little bit better? And so it's been a lot of fun being around like-minded people, and it gives me an opportunity to be the savage that I am, to be the barbarian that I am, and still know that there's a good opportunity for me to be around other professional people that are designed in a way that I'm not. And so we all make each other a little bit better. So what is that coffee cup that you were drinking out of this morning, sir?
So you may notice a theme. I don't know if you can tell, but this is New York.
Yes.
New York and New York. I think in another life, I was a New Yorker.
Yep. Can you raise that cup up a little bit?
New York is my happy place. I love Southern California, but I think I'm a New Yorker at heart. The city just, I try to go at least once a year, but the city just, I don't know, there's something, it's like a warm blanket around me every time I'm there. So big fan of New York.
So I have a picture up of New York as soon as you walk in my house as well, right over the dining room table. And I've actually had it for the background of the last interview. But I love New York. I love the concept of New York. I love the idea of New York. But you know what's so interesting is that I've never been.
You said that the other day.
They say, Serpa, you belong in New York. When I used to live in LA and I was writing and directing plays and doing theater, people were like, "This is a play that should have been in New York. This is not LA theater." And so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Mamet calls New York the place where people go to work, and he calls LA the place where people go to wait by the phones.
Right. Well, my grandfather was from New York on my mom's side.
Okay.
So we grew up hearing stories, but I didn't go for the first time until I was 31. So I actually went just before 9/11. I was there in April of 2001 was my first trip to New York. But not only is it New York is a place I feel like if you ever wanted to completely change your life, you could go there and just disappear. And
Isn't that what the American dream is supposed to be all about? You know what I mean?
you could recreate yourself there.
Recreate yourself. And again, another Buddhist principle.
Yeah.
Death and rebirth, dying in every moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we do get that opportunity right now. We all woke up Monday morning. You know what I mean? We get an opportunity to recreate ourselves and to change the things about ourselves that we don't love. And one of the things that I wanted to go back to, which is why I haven't changed it here, is you said, I didn't grow up as an entrepreneur. I didn't grow up with that mindset. I didn't know what it was. And it takes being introduced to these concepts from somebody else so that you can have that awareness moment that's like, oh, there's something different out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was freeing. I mean, to be honest, the moment that I made this change, I felt like, I don't want to talk bad about corporate America. I think they do a good job of that themselves. But it felt like the chains had been released. And it actually has taken me a little while to get around this concept that I create my own destiny. I create my own life, my own work schedule, my own, and another thing that I really, and to go back about why I started with real estate was I felt like for the first time in my life, the harder I worked, the more reward I could get.
Yeah.
When you're in corporate America, you have a salary,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter how much you work or how much you don't work. That never changes.
That's absolutely right.
And when it does, it goes up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit at a time. Whereas this feels like the more, like I said, the more work I put into it, the more I can get out of it. And that's exciting for me.
So you and I are both veterans, and I've told this story a couple of times. I was filling sandbags, and I was a young PFC filling sandbags, and this guy next to me says, who outranks me, says, "Hey, slow down a little bit. Whether you fill 30 and I fill 3, we are both going to get paid the same amount of money."
Right.
But I was not wired in a way, and am not wired in a way that I'm going to scoff off work. I'm going to scoff off my opportunity for service. And so I took it seriously. And so, of course, we've got Zach Bach here who says, manifest your destiny. And Zach brought you on eXp, I'm correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, sponsored.
So my last question for you before I let you go, because, this is, you and I are wired very similarly in the way that we approach business. What do you have to say to the fence sitters? The people that are halfway in, halfway out, maybe they haven't heard about eXp, but what would you tell these people that makes them make the jump?
I think, again, it's just having that access, having that connection to so many people. I'm new to the business, so I've never actually been in a traditional type brokerage. But I have an idea of what that might be like. And for me, again, it's this idea of being able to connect with people all over the world. Your work group is just so expansive. The influence you can have, the idea that you can be anywhere. I mean, we were on that bus. I think it was Zach that said, I can talk to my broker in my car. I can, just wherever you are connected, and we all want to feel connected. And that's what eXp really does for me. It makes me feel like I'm part of something that's really, really big and exciting and new and cutting edge. And, who doesn't want to be on the cutting edge of any industry that you're in?
It's a totally different thing. Zach popping out the hot spot right there while we're on a bus headed to Beverly Hills to go see somebody that we work with so that we could go into a $9 million home and have a mastermind and meet more people that are with eXp. The opportunities are endless. The only thing that is going to limit you at eXp is your own mind.
Right.
Plain and simple. And what a great place to be. We don't have to concentrate on the floor. We can concentrate on the lack of a ceiling.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, William Gill, Casey, I appreciate you being on Coffee and eXp this morning. I appreciate you coming on board and jumping in with both feet to eXp. Thank you so much for being here and making this culture better. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you and the excitement that you create.
And if anybody needs to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you to join eXp?
So they can call me at 951-460-0505 or check out my website at www.realgill.com. REALGILL.
Realgill.com.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I actually grabbed that months ago because I had this idea pop in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed that domain back in February, I think.
Yeah. This is the real Gill right here, guys. We're not joking around.
It's the real Gill, the real deal.
All right, my friend. Have a beautiful rest of your Monday.
Thank you
for being on the open house show yesterday. Thank you for being on Coffee and eXp today. And everybody, have a great rest of your week. Feel free to reach out to Mr. William Gill right here on Facebook if you are interested in joining eXp or just have some more questions. You can also contact him on his phone number. Feel free to watch this from the beginning. Share it out. And, of course, subscribe on YouTube to David Serpa at eXp Realty. Everybody, have a great rest of your Monday. Have a productive week. And stop being a slave to your broker. Step into agent ownership.
Yep.
See you soon, my friend.
Thanks,
Have a good day, everybody.